Okay, folks, I have 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this special council meeting into order. And we will begin, first of all, with a discussion about the ground rules for tonight's interviews and potential votes on a candidate to fill Mr. Williams' seat. As far as the voting will be concerned, the 4 council members will be doing the voting, and it will be a public vote. We will know how they vote. As far as the question period, we've allocated enough time for them to ask several questions from each council member of the potential candidates. Should we end up and vote tonight and we end up in a tie, I'm going to ask that the council take a few moments, we'll break, and then we'll get back together publicly and have a discussion and see if anybody wants to change their vote, and if not, we will then do a coin toss and determine who the winner will be. Any questions?
Heads or tails?
That'll be up to whoever we decide gets to make the call. All right. Any questions from the council on the ground rules or anything that you want to discuss before we bring the candidate in?
And there will be 2 questions, correct?
2 questions. Unless a question receives a response that begs a follow-on question.
I have a further question on what Carl asked. Is there a question? Sorry. One of the council members asked a question that has a follow-on question by another council member related to the same subject. And there might be, for example, Kathy asks a question, Carl says, well, what about this and that? The same scenario question, and can it come back to me to ask for further clarification, or to Sal?
If you feel very strongly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And our goal is to accomplish each one of these in less than 30 minutes. So
That's correct.
So follow up to his question, so we're allowed to do a follow-up question to a question that another council person asked?
No, I would want to keep it such that we're trying to keep the 2 questions and do our interviews in the 30 minutes allowed. What I'm saying is, if they respond to your question and it begs a follow-up, you should ask the follow-up question.
On another council person's question, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Roush, would you please get Mr. Tolbert?
where is he in there?
Yeah, he's in the lobby of our office.
Yeah, thank you. This is different than when we did the sitting there, but they had 3 different chairs, so we're going to be standing there for 30 minutes.
I don't know if it'll be 30 minutes, but whatever he's most comfortable. If he would rather sit down, I'll go out, bring a chair. Hey, Mr. Tolbert.
Yes, sir.
You know, we don't want to necessarily make you stand for 30 minutes. If you want to sit down, we can grab a chair and sit down. How do you want to do it?
Oh, we'll stand. That's okay.
All right.
So I don't feel like a little kid.
All right. So I've asked the council to prepare some questions. We're going to try and keep it to no more than 2 questions per council member.
Okay.
So, you know, just do your best to be relaxed. Do your best to answer the question to whatever you think they're asking, and we'll move on from there.
Okay.
All right. With that said, since Mr. Donahue has done this before, Mr. Donahue, you want to start the questioning?
Sure, I'll be glad to. First of all, congratulations on making it thus far. But just in case you're not selected, there will be 2 open seats coming up next election. I mean, that's going to be Sal's and mine. Okay. All right, questions. How do you plan to engage with the community to ensure the voices and concerns are heard?
Excellent question, thank you. First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't start out with the city has already started down that path, and I appreciate the managers hiring our public information officer, Ms. Shanika Francis, because I think we are making a step in the right direction for engagement. I'm also appreciative that Christopher Saul and Midway News are here regularly to gather information, to put it out there, and even get feedback in that direction. I almost thought about answering with, well, I could read Facebook and post on Concerned Citizens and I still. But I figured that probably wasn't the best answer for engagement. What I do see is one of the near-term initiatives, as the manager has already announced, his engagement with Northwest Florida State College and the Senior Professionals Organization to create mission and vision statements for the city. There will be very focused engagement with the city through that process and through the citizens with that process. In fact, in 2023, when Walton County did this, they had over 700 responses and interactions with the public while trying to craft that. So I think we're moving in the correct direction. As for myself, without the support of the city, of course, neighborhood discussion is always important. Being friendly to your neighbors, knowing your neighbors, and engaging throughout the community on anytime you're at the football game, on the ball field, or wherever you happen to encounter your neighbors, because when they want to talk to you, they'll seek you out.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Alley?
Well, you can pick an easy one, it's okay.
I was gonna ask two first, so.
Oh,
And ma'am, if you could use your mic as well.
So again, thank you for being here tonight. It's not easy to stand up in front of us and take questions. What do you feel the biggest concern Niceville citizens have, besides storage units?
I'm actually going to group that into what I view as our strengths and weaknesses for the city, because you'll find some similarity there. So on the strength side, I think we are a bedroom type community where we enjoy really good schools, low crime, and a small town atmosphere. But at the same time, those same three strengths are actually some of our weaknesses, that we are a bedroom community, that we don't enjoy leisure and the ability to shopping and dining out is probably one of the reasons I hear the most. It's like, bring me a steak restaurant, bring me something where I can spend more time here. Along with that bedroom community, you also have the commute that becomes available if you want to go places. We also have no industrial base here as being one of our weaknesses, or one of our strengths, that we have no pollutants. By the same token, that's also a weakness because of jobs, of local higher paying jobs. There's a shortage beyond the base and those that telework. There's a shortage of higher paying jobs in the area. But in the weakness part of that, we also have no pollution, or there is no pollution as a strength, but we don't have the jobs. And finally, I think one of the biggest concerns is the lack of variety we've got parks covered down solidly, we've got a senior citizen center covered down solidly, but a lack of something to do for engagement. Movie theaters, leisure, non-sporting activities, and places to go shopping. I think that's what one of the largest concerns for our citizens are.
Thank you.
Mr. Schatzer?
Doug, thank you for being here also. I'm going to make a statement, and then I'll tell you when I get to my question. As a city council person, you are as successful as the time and energy you dedicate to the position. As a city council person, you are involved in many of Okaloosa and community activities, including serving on Niceville committees as appointed by the mayor. My question, how will you balance your time between your current activities, including your family, and your duties and responsibilities as a city councilman?
That's a great question. I had this discussion with my wife, who I must recognize in the audience as being very supportive, because this was not something that I entered lightly. This is something that we entered together with that discussion of how do we manage the time, how do we manage the commitment that goes along with that. As you are aware from my resume, I still do have a job that is a full-time position. One of the key ingredients of that job is the flexibility that comes along with it. I'm able to, with a little bit of lead time, flex my schedule a great deal. Now, the backside penalty is an ODark 30 sim or a really late night flight to make the rest of it all work out. But I've managed to do that for a lot of years, working in a command that works a lot of nights, but still living in daylight hours with the rest of the community. So we did have that discussion. I do believe we are prepared to, I won't say sacrifice, but put forth the engagement time required for this position.
Thank you.
Mr. Najumian?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Doug, congratulations for getting to this stage. You've been active, obviously, with our planning commission, and you've been a member of the community for quite a while. What do you feel are, let's just go with, say, top 3 accomplishments that the city has had over the last 10 years?
It's sometimes hard to look back to the long term, back to the 10-year point back, because what's happened recently is has been pretty important. Some of the things that are initiatives that are ongoing. I think the CRA initiative is one of the most important things the city is participating in and has spent some time and effort moving forward, moving that goal forward on. Because as I talked earlier, that arts and leisure and recreational time, the part that's missing is being answered right there. We've also done an amazing job with age-focused type of solutions. For example, the Senior Citizen Center, the Senior Center, has been a resounding success, especially the pickleball courts, which are open outside the senior hours. But that was a major milestone, something that was missing within the community for quite a few years, that small towns around America have kind of taken for granted, and that we have now captured for that. Number 3, I think, is the invisible. That's where it has just all happened in the background, that people haven't recognized the amount of time and effort the city has put forth on streets, sidewalks, a police department, a modernized fire department, all of those things that take into running a city that kind of just people take for granted as a happening are important things. And I would count that in my top 3 of just being, it's invisible to everybody, but it has smoothly happened over the entire time period. And never has anyone had to worry that it wouldn't happen.
Mr. Najumian, you have a second question?
Sure, I'll go again.
Back to back.
Yeah, it's like snake draft. If you are fortunate enough to be selected for the position and have an opportunity to serve for the next 3 years, and it's now 2027, what do you look back on as your fondest memories and accomplishments? In other words, what do you hope to accomplish? Said a different way.
Okay. First of all, there's not a single agenda or rub that has caused me to apply for this position. Rather, I've applied for this position through a love for the community and a dedication to serving toward this community and my neighbors, whether it be through an HOA, the Planning Commission, the Traffic Planning Organization, We're just volunteering within the school systems of Niceville. With that said, as an agenda, I believe we need to prioritize in line with what the city charter, let me grab it real quick. It's the protection of health, life, and property is what the charter says that the city will do, what our charter is. And so I think any actions we take should be centered around those three items. And so when we need to make prioritizing decisions on whether it's the fire department's ladder truck or whether we make a park expansion, I think our answer becomes clear. People in this community are very tax sensitive. It's a lesson I learned when I was a little kid. I got our high school, the levy, it appeared that it was probably not going to pass in my small town. And so all the clubs and sporting teams were encouraged to go out and door to door to get people to support this levy. And so we had well-practiced, well-rehearsed little speeches, and so I was convinced. Knocking on doors, this is a shoe-in to convince people that, oh, it's for the schools, it's for the kids, this is easy. Now, if I had a nickel for every door that was slammed in my face that said, I don't have kids anymore, I'm not paying any extra, I'd be retired right now. But and so that has taught me the lesson of like, okay, if you're going to increase those taxes, we need to be able to explain it. So looking back, I want to be able to gladly be able to stand and justify why we spent the money, where we spent the money, and what the purpose of that money went for.
Thank you.
Mr. Schatzel?
Yes. Doug, I don't think your resume referenced working with youth groups or young adults in any way, at least not that I recall. But if you have done so, briefly describe how and what capacity you served as a Boy Scout leader or any other church choir group or something of that nature. In other words, how did you do it? What was your position and for how long?
Next. We'll start out with an organization that's now defunct, the Valparaiso Niceville Girls Softball Association, VNGSA. It was the first and only girls softball league in the area for years and years. Over in Wolverine Park, where there's now empty vacant land, is where it used to reside. It has subsequently been built into Little League. But at the time, I was a coach on the team for about 3 years and also a board member. And unfortunately, I was a board member when we made the decision to actually dissolve as Wolverine Park was taken back by Eglin Air Force Base because it was in an encroachment zone, safety zone, so they had to close that lease off. And so it got evolved over into this facility. So that's one of the areas. A second one is with middle school math, of all things. Okay, so there's an organization nationwide called Math Counts. Math Counts is a way to try to encourage middle schoolers to be more engaged in the STEM field. It was I started doing it before the STEM Academy was here, and so it was a way twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, kids would actually show up before school to meet with me, and we would spend about 45 minutes doing math assignments and math works, and end up taking these kids down to the state tournament several times. We never won, but they learned a lot about the importance of math, and so that was one of my other mentoring. And then finally, high school level goes along with, as every person that's had a child in the band, it is not a small commitment that they're expecting back out of you. So there's a lot of time up and down the bleachers, selling tickets or being a vendor there, things like that. And at the same time, I was also on the Niceville High School School Advisory Council as a parent member.
Thank you.
Ms. Alec?
So you're one of three that we got to choose from tonight. So can you tell me why you feel you're the best person for this job?
Fair question. It's always a challenging question to stand here and say, why am I better than somebody else? I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm better than any other candidates. What I would say is I would offer you some experiences that may differentiate me. So let's start there. I have been an active member on the City Planning Commission, and is that, I think one of the important pieces of information with that is that every single time something was on the agenda that would come to me, I would put eyes on it ahead of time. There was never a time where something would pop up on the agenda, would show up on the agenda, where I had to go, now where is that again? Can you describe this? Because I'd actually already looked at it and spent the time engaged, digging through property records in advance to check to make sure that everything appeared the way it should appear. So that's one of the areas. I'm also engaged, I've been engaged on the Okaloosa-Walton Traffic Planning Organization on the Citizens Advisory Council. We just met this past week up in Defuniak, because it moves around the two counties between Okaloosa and Walton, to work on roads, public concerns for not just roads, but also sidewalks, multimodal paths, things like that. And so been engaging with them. And in fact, I actually took to them one of this city's latest initiatives, which was the school zone traffic cameras, which some of the other cities and organizations there were pretty excited about. Fortunately, I had to attend the meeting so I could deflect immediately some of the questions, but they were engaged with that. Additionally, let's see, let me take a look. Charter Review Committee. So I did the Charter Review Committee, so my knowledge of what's in our charter and how our charter has changed is pretty in-depth. I actually understand the city manager as the city administrator, and this is the legislative body, and the importance of having well-researched questions and answers for that. So being well-informed is important. Grassroots involvement is important, which I've already talked about. And then perhaps just a love for the city. You know, I don't have an agenda that I'm here. There's not an angle that I'm looking to take. It's just that I want to continue to serve.
Thank you.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes, sir. When it comes to decision-making, speak on ensuring that policies and initiatives are inclusive and represent our diverse community.
That's a very timely question. I think every resident needs to be heard. Whether it's limited to their 3 minutes at the microphone, or a letter to the board, to the council, a letter to the manager. I think everyone has a voice to be heard. As we're aware, this city comes from a wide variety of folks. I think the military has brought in a great variety of people from a lot of different places. It's not, if you would say it's small town rural Florida, I think we're about as far as you can get away from that, in the fact that there are the variety of folks here. One of the areas that comes to mind is the unhoused. You know, we typically see questions about the homeless and what are we going to do about the homeless? Well, they too are really unhoused, and so they're not necessarily in that position because they chose to be in that position. You know, they are a diverse socioeconomic portion of the city. Granted, a very small sliver. The number has dwindled greatly over the years as to what's here. But again, I think the city has done a done a good job with trying to figure out how to handle those, how to deal with their segment, how to ensure that we allow everyone that has a message to say can be heard by this group.
So, Mr. Tolbert, the council has asked you quite a few questions. Do you have anything that you would like to say to the council, or a question that you might want to ask?
I think we've covered a lot of territory tonight, and I have a lot of notes here written down of things that I kind of wanted to talk about as things. And I think one of the things that I really, the key point of what kind of like 3 things a council member should have to be successful as a council member, I just wanted to talk about those just a little bit. One of them is integrity. And personal integrity is like we've got that, but the integrity to set aside your personal preferences on a topic and represent the community and always think of the greater good versus, well, that would be nice for me, but what is the greater good? The second one is an ability to be humble. That is to remember that we are accountable to the citizens, that they are not our fiefs. It is, we serve the citizens of this community, and at the same time being humble by always acknowledging that there's somebody in the room that's smarter about any given topic than you are. And the last one is to be resilient, to try to provide that positive outlook so that others can maintain their emotional strength. My wife always looks at me, and one of the things she always tells me before any engagement that I ever have, she always looks at me, she goes, speak slower and smile. And that's an important thing to do, to be able to look down, that if there's a smile on your face, not smugness, but a smile, it'll help the folks that are coming in front of you to engage more effectively. So I think with those 3 things, integrity, a humble attitude, and to be resilient would be productive members of this council.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that much. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to leave the area here in a little bit. I don't want you to be in hearing shot of the other candidates. You can rest back over in that area if you want to, or you can depart and come back a little bit later. But my intention fully tonight is to have the vote and swear in the new council member if we reach an agreement.
That sounds good. I'll go sit in my car. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a key.
Mayor, who would you like to?
Just hold on. I want to address the council first before we go get the next individual.
Kind of.
Okay, to the council, I just want to remind you that the questions you asked Mr. Tolbert should be the same questions you asked the other candidates, as a reminder. Again, if their response elicits an obvious follow-up, you are welcome to go ahead and do that. Are there any questions the council has at this point in time? All right. If you would, let's bring in the next candidate.
And who was that?
That is
Mr. Patel.
Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel, before we get started, I'm going to give you the option. You can either stand or you can sit. If you want to sit, we'll just pull up a chair, your call. And also, I want to let you know that each of the council members will be doing the questioning. They will probably have a total of 2 questions amongst each one, so about 8 questions you probably have tonight. So again, tell me what you want to do. Do you want to stand or do you want to sit?
Probably stand.
Okay. You can adjust that down so you don't have to stand on your tippy toes. All right, first of all, congratulations to being one of the finalists for the open seat, and best wishes to you. And with that, we will begin with Mr. Najumian.
All right, welcome.
Good evening,
Yeah,
sir.
good evening. Congratulations again for making it to the finals. It's a great accomplishment. I'm going to start with a kind of a general question here. What do you feel have been the top accomplishments that we as a city have enjoyed over the last 10 years? Or in your time that you've been here?
Yeah, pretty much grew up here, so I saw the town like completely grow. The roads that recently got paved was awesome, and the sidewalks.
Excuse me, can we get the volume of the microphone turned up in some way, please?
Until I just need to speak louder.
Yeah, I think I'll just speak louder, sorry.
It might be even easier just to take it out and hold it.
Yeah.
Try that. It should pop right out of that carriage.
Pull it towards you.
Yeah. There you go. That's it. And just hold it real close, and that way everyone can hear you.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So yeah, the sidewalks and the roads was really good. And then the Deer Moss development and all the new development that came over the years, they all seem to be really good.
Okay. Is there a third, or sidewalks, roads as one, Deer Moss, or new development in general?
That's what I can think of at the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a lot of stuff, good stuff that happened over the years.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shasta.
Yes, and I'd like to also thank you for being one of the 3 finalists. I have something to say, and then I have a question, so I'll let you know when I ask my question. So what I'm about to say is, as a city councilman, you are as successful as the time and energy you devote to the position. As a city councilman, you are involved in many of Okaloosa and community activities, including serving on Niceville committees as appointed by the mayor. My question, how will you balance your time between your current activities, being your job, your family, and other things that you do, and your duties and responsibilities as a city councilman? So how will you balance your time?
I believe I will do that really well. During my last campaign, I knocked on 500 doors, which maybe I'm one of the few candidates, if not the only one to do that. So I can give the city a lot of time, and all the activities, I'll be able to balance them.
Okay,
Is there a follow-up? I hope I answered your question, sir.
sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Howard.
Again, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. My question is, what do you feel the biggest concern Niceville citizens have besides storage units?
Yeah, hotel storage units and all. The usual I've heard, I know there was a Home Depot in talks a long time ago, steakhouses and all. I know Destin has a steakhouse, like quite a few good ones. And of course it would be nice to see one here. But like lots of children, lots of young families, bowling alley I think would do phenomenal, whoever. I know none of this is easy. And, but yeah, bowling alley, maybe a movie theater, but I don't think so. I'm sure there's a lot of good ideas. So being in the Niceville Young Professionals gives me a lot of perspective on young entrepreneurs, and I'm always around good ideas, I believe. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Donahue.
Congratulations
thank you, sir.
for making it thus far. Just in case you don't make it tonight, there'll be 2 seats. Hopefully you'll come back if you don't make it. Okay, my question, how do you plan to engage with the community to ensure the voices and concerns are heard?
I believe joining I've been a member of the Exchange Club as well for a little over a year now. But coming to council meetings and going to all the events that the city hosts, Chamber of Commerce, that will give me an idea and being around the community and people's concerns and comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Donahue, you have another question?
Yes, sir. When it comes to decision-making, speak on ensuring that the policies and initiatives are inclusive and represent our diverse community.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again, please?
When it comes to decision-making, speak on ensuring that policies and initiatives are inclusive and represent our diverse community.
Yes, sir, that will be always a part of my decision. If I'm a part of the council, to make sure all groups, all age groups, all ethnicities, and make decisions based on that.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Allen?
So tonight, you're one of three that we must choose from tonight. Why do you feel you are the best person for the city council?
I believe I can offer a different perspective in many ways, at least a few ways. And I grew up in the hospitality industry, but 25 years ago we moved here from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I grew up at the hotel in Bluewater and been lived in Niceville Bay Area for over 25 years. But tourism is the largest industry in our state, and I believe I can provide some input and knowledge together, and that hospitality as well. We're going to generate some revenue from all these hotels. I know them, so I can, if there's some questions or something needed, I could reach out to them. But yeah, and customer service. Growing up and working there, I know that the customer is always right. So when citizens come here, my eyes and ears are always going to be open and troubleshoot together, hopefully, with you guys, if anybody has any situations. I can also, I can bring the same energy I did a few years ago during my campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Schatzel?
Yes, this question is something that I didn't pick up out of your resume, but the question is, have you worked with youth groups before? And if so, briefly describe what was the youth group, what was your position, and for how long? And it could be things like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or church activities. So have you worked with them?
Very, very briefly, I did. As part of the Exchange Club, we go to the Green Acres, the children's place, and help with landscaping there, but no Boy Scouts or Girl. I wasn't a part of the Boy Scouts.
And what was the name of the group again, please?
So the Exchange Club goes once a month or once quarterly to Fort Walton Beach. There's a children's place who don't have families, so we go there and serve sometimes. I've been there.
Thank you.
Well,
Mr. Najumian?
Yes, so I have the pleasure of asking the final question. So you're almost done your grilling. In your, this is a 3-year appointment. You'd be in the seat until March of 27. So if you're fortunate enough to get selected, what do you hope to accomplish over the next 3 years?
continue to work together with the city members of the council, Mr. Hinkle and everybody, and see what is needed and help to the best of my abilities. I'm pretty good at math, and I'm sure you all already do it, but budgets are a big part of the city as well, so perhaps I can help there, save money, and maybe grow our wealth. Even with the planning, I've been through it. We've done a few hotel developments in the area, so 2 in Walton County, and see how the citizens can be happy along with the developers. I know the last meeting, there was, see if we can, if there's a chance for citizens to come out earlier instead of halfway through the development to voice their concerns, or, you know, because I've been through it where we built a hotel and everything approves and halfway through they still try to find ways to stop us. So I don't know if we have that, I'm sure we don't, but that's Walton County, so
Okay.
hopefully answer it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Patel, we have asked you our series of questions and so forth. Are there any questions or any things that you want to tell us about yourself?
Thank you all. I've been coming over the last few years to the city council meetings, and you guys do a phenomenal job. And if I'm fortunate enough, I just want to work with everybody and see how we can make it better or keep it the same. It's an awesome town. Thank you, and no questions.
All right, thank you. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to ask you to leave this immediate area so that you're not in here when we do the next interview. But I would ask that you be nearby, because my hope is tonight that we will make a decision and swear in the new council member before the night's over. So if you don't mind hanging somewhere around, that would be great.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we get the next candidate, is there any questions, concerns, or anything from the council? Okay. So if you don't mind, let's bring in the third candidate.
It's gonna be the one guy up in your little
It was a trick question.
Yeah. Unless there's two people.
That's
One of them's not even interested in being on council. Can we bring him in?
There you go, exactly.
He crushes it. Should have. I thought it was in the back.
Cheese bread with garlic. See? Do it every night.
Front and center, mister.
I want to be invited, you know,
Okay.
don't want to assume.
So, Mr. Stoffer, before we get started, we have done this for the other candidates, and that is, we give you the option. Do you want to stand and answer questions, or would you prefer to have a seat?
As I once told a general, I'd rather stand.
Okay.
It's much easier.
So we're going to ask you a couple questions from each council member. Then in the end, we'll give you a chance to either ask us questions or tell us some things that you want us to know about yourself. But let me first start by saying congratulations for being one of the finalists, and then I will turn that over to Miss Alley to begin the question.
And so I just want to ask, make sure you speak into the microphone, please.
And I just turned it. I don't know. There you go.
Put it up where it's close to your lips.
How about that?
That's really good.
That'll work.
Congratulations for making it to this point, and it's a big deal. And I want to thank you. My question is, what do you feel the biggest concern Niceville citizens have besides storage units?
Affordable housing is probably a big one that I could go on, like, you know, daycare, the homeless population, you know, just maybe the traffic, but not so much here as north of here and, you know, Fort Walton Beach and with a base, but probably those things I would mention.
Thank you.
Mr. Schatzel?
Doug, congratulations on also making the top 3 applicants. I'm going to say something and then I'm going to ask a question. I'll tell you when I ask the question. So what I want to say to you is, as a city council person, you are as successful as the time and energy you dedicate to the position. As a city council person, you are involved in many Okaloosa and community activities, including serving on Niceville committees as appointed by the mayor. Here's my question. How will you balance your time between your current activities and your duties and responsibility as a city councilman?
Well, and that's a great question. I'm just a hard worker, always have been. I put in the time it takes to get the job done. One of the things that I would do is resign one of the positions that I hold now as treasurer. Rather not say any specifics on it, but I have already decided that if I would get it, I would resign that position, and that would probably save me from 10 to 15 hours a week. So once that's done, then it's basically, you know, I'm freeing up that much. Then I just do what it takes. I mean, if there's a job to be done, I just put in the time.
Thank you.
Mr. Najumi.
Doug,
Hey,
congratulations on getting to this point.
thank you.
You've been pretty involved in our community, see you around lots of things. You're here at many meetings. What do you feel are the top 3 accomplishments of our city over the last 10 years?
Well, I would say with all the trophies behind you and the fact that you're over it, you know, the youth council for sure, because it's recognized everywhere as a top council for the youth. I would, you know, I don't know that I would get into the school things, but the buildings that are going up, pretty more, you know, with the school board and things like that. I would say just the camaraderie of what you have done in bringing in a good city manager, because we had a great city manager forever, and then when he came in, I watched he would bring his people in, and that's a great management principle. So I think that was a huge thing. Have I mentioned 3? Is that 3?
Yeah, I think so. I could
Okay.
bin those as 3.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Because I could go on. You know, I talk.
Well, feel free, if you have more stuff that you want to bring out, please feel free to do so.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Donahue.
Congratulations on making it thus far. In case you're not selected tonight, there will be 2 positions come next election that you shall see in mind. Okay. How do you plan to engage with the community to ensure the voices and concerns are heard?
I would say you just make sure you answer your emails, because a lot of things I think from other city councils that I've been involved with, they get a lot of emails, so you make sure you do that. Somebody comes before the council, write down their name, make sure that you're communicating with them in a personal manner. Don't wear your feelings on your sleeve. As a pastor, missions pastor, I had to turn people down for going into the mission field because they weren't qualified. And you know, it's a tough thing, but you've got to make hard decisions. You can't knee-jerk reaction be wear your feelings on your sleeve, because if you do, you're gonna react in a negative way. I just think it's representing the city in the right capacity, where people respect the position, but they respect the person in the position because he exudes that type of mentality. I'm just big on, you know, positivity, just making sure you stay positive in some of the most difficult situations. I try to spin everything I can, at least in some positive way, and still face reality. So I think, you know, things like, and just stay engaged. I mean, I go to the chamber functions. I'm involved in quite a few other things. So I think just staying engaged, but being on a different capacity as a city, on the city council.
Thank you.
Ms. Alley.
So you're one of 3 that we have to select tonight. Why do you feel you are the best person for the job?
Well, I would say, when I'm looking at the other qualifications of the other people, I was been a football coach before. You always extol their virtues too. They're very qualified. I have looked through the documents, read the city charter twice. read the comprehensive plan, looked through it. I've looked through all the ordinances. In fact, in the first meeting when I came up to see the city manager, when I handed him the paper, I had read the ordinances through a particular issue that was ongoing, and just found something, and he's probably already seen it, but I went ahead and talked to him about that. So I'm just proactive. I just make sure that if I have my name in the hat, it's because I believe that I could do a good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Schatzel?
Doug, have you ever worked with young adults before? And if so, briefly describe in what position you were in, what was the youth group, and for how long?
Wow. Well, I taught, several, but I guess the first one that comes to mind is I taught a class of 120 students 4 days a week in a Christian school, taught Bible. I also taught computers and accounting. I had to give up computers first. I had to give up sort of a love that I have because my time started becoming limited because I was teaching or preaching 12 times a week in the Bible Institute. So I had to give that up, but I gave up the accounting, and they took first and second place in the state each year. Because I love accounting. I'm a CPA. I passed the exam myself. So when I taught the class, I was able to. I had some of the best students, the brightest students in there, and one of them wouldn't do the work, and I'd go to them and say, look, you will flunk accounting. It's like another language. And I got through to him, and you got an F today because you didn't do the homework. And just communicating with them. So I've taken youth groups to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Boston, and there's 2 or 3 other places that I've taken them. I think the youth is the future, therefore, it's something that we ought to all be engaged in to try to inspire them to be what they can be in whatever capacity they choose to, live their life.
Thank you.
Mr. Najumian?
Doug, this position has 3 years remaining on it. The appointee will be in the seat through March of 27. If you're fortunate enough to have the seat, what do you hope to accomplish over the next 3 years?
Well, I would say the first thing I want to accomplish is learning. Of course, I'm here, I listen to you, I take a lot of notes, and I really never anticipated doing this because I've always, I've had other opportunities, but the thing is, I'm here for life. We built a house here. I was here 40 years ago. This city changed my life. I came through, I became a pastor of the church, and, quite frankly, the sky's the limit. I want to be engaged. I'm going to Tallahassee Tuesday and Wednesday, taking 3 leadership groups there, Okaloosa, Santa Rosa, Walton counties, and so I'm setting up all the meetings with the senators, the representatives, the executive branch. We're going to the governor's mansion, so I'm trying to get him to pop in, or her, or the lieutenant governor, which I don't think I'll pull off, but it's always nice to dream. But I just think it's, I want to make the city better. It is a good city. I think our leadership that we have, looking in front of me, beside me, I see leadership that has vision, leadership that, has the wherewithal to continue to be great. And I've read all of it, so I understand the city manager's position, I understand the city council position, the mayor's position. We're not to micromanage anybody that works for him, but there's a purpose for the council, and that council has certain constraints, and I would want to fall within those constraints. Never abuse the position, and never, hey, I'm somebody because now I have a title. I've had so many titles that, that's not important. What's important, I think, is I was shocked when Abner resigned. I was here, and it was heartbreaking, because I was here when he got elected. He came to my house, in front of my house. We met there when you guys were looking at zoning, and we talked for 30 minutes. That's a guy that's, and all of you do that. You go to where you're changing zoning, and I've listened to you. This is where it is, and I've been pretty impressed because that'll be my biggest that I perceive thing that I'd have to do is make sure I can find the place. So, again, I would look to the city manager. I know you got the aquatic center, you've got the Meg's Park, you've got the signs, you've already done some things. So, I mean, I would look at just figuring out, I mean, I've got one or two things that I thought of today that I would like to see. But I think the downtown expansion is going to be huge. So I think stuff like that. I just see this city as the greatest city I've ever lived in. It's Niceville, and every time I make a phone call, that's what I get. Is it nice? Isn't that quaint? And guess what? You know what I say? It sure is.
Agreed, thank you.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes, sir. When it comes to decision-making, speak on ensuring that policies and initiatives are inclusive and represent our diverse community.
So just the diversity so I guess I'm not quite sure. You just, in other words, just speak on it and say, what would I do to make sure that we have equal representation for all peoples?
Correct.
And again, I believe in that. My song leader that we're trying to get to come in is African American. He was here 30 years ago. He came up and sang for me Sunday, and I told him I'd sell him my house and I'd build next door. And so, I mean, I'm just telling you, that's who I am. So, in our congregation, we're not, that diverse. We do have some Hispanics, we do have that, but, I just believe it's important. I believe you serve all the people, regardless of race, color, or that. So, I've been all over the world, China, Venezuela, Philippines, you name it, and been able to minister to those people groups. So it's been, and I've got an offer to go to Africa right now. I may not do it just because, look, I've got to go see my dad. He's 88, and I need to get that done. That can't be till the end of March. I'm going to Canada in April for a week, and then that's it. I probably won't be able to make it to Africa this year. But next year, maybe so. I just believe it's important. I believe you serve all the people equally.
Thank you.
Okay, Doug, we have asked you a lot of questions. I figured we'd give you an opportunity to ask questions or to elaborate on things you want us to know about yourself.
Well, I mean, I don't know that you guys haven't really covered everything. I mean, I really don't have anything to add. The questions were great. They really covered a diverse, area, gave me an opportunity to speak, and, given the chance, anybody could probably speak for 10 or 15 minutes, but I really don't want to do that. What I want to say is just, I appreciate the opportunity. I am honored that I'm within the four. If I am the best candidate, then, so be it. If I'm not, I'll be here and I'll do whatever the mayor asks me to do when I show up. I'll be here and I'll still be engaged, and again, I just appreciate it. I think this city is the best city. I mean, I was 28 years in a city in Alabama, and was engaged there. The mayor would call up and say, hey, elections come, is there anything you need? As a church member, and because our church was very active. And so, he would do that, and we had a great relationship, and he's still the mayor, I don't know, 30 years probably by now. But I just believe I wouldn't want to break it. In other words, I want to be part of the good of Niceville. So I don't want to do anything to, give it a black eye or a shadow or anything like that. I want to be somebody that would serve the people. I believe in servant leadership. I put that in my letter. I have managed people since I was 16 years old. I ran a I don't know what to call it back then. You're talking 1976, mom and pop store. And, 16, 17, 18 years old, I went in the Air Force after that. I was below the zone for one rank, below zone again, and then when I tested for staff, skipping sergeant, I had the highest test scores in the entire Air Force. So they put me in the paper, and, senior airman to staff, and that was one, and then Stauffer admin's best, but I will confess one thing, the Eglin paper could not put me in there because my mustache was out of regs. I had a problem with my hair and my mustache, so I was a little bit of a rebel at times. I was probably that close to getting busted, and instead I was very fortunate, very blessed. So I just say that I don't like limelight. I don't. I mean, I do get it a lot, but I was at a meeting the other day with Mel Ponder, didn't even talk to him until afterwards, and I said, look, sometimes I get up to a group or I go in and I stand next to somebody and they give me their attention, and I said, I feel like I'm such a rude person at times because, before I would interrupt because I was just dumb, but I've learned to just sort of stand back some. So I just try to, I try to blend in. It doesn't happen very well. It's not like us at the breakfast the other day. Anything would blend in. We both stood up and talked about our Valentine's thing. It was pretty cool. And I wasn't going to do it. So, it was at the very end, and she's looking around, and finally she said, I need one more. And I'm looking at it. I got this on my mind. I go, okay. And then I won. I beat Sal. Don't hold that against me. But he did win. He did win the centerpiece. So there you go. So I really don't have anything other than just jabbering a little bit. I appreciate what you're doing. I love this city. I will be here. I will support you no matter what happens.
Thank you very much. So here's what we've asked the other candidates, and we'll ask you the same thing, and that is we're going to ask you to leave the room and go wait someplace. Our intent is to have a discussion here and hopefully a vote, and then we would bring in the individual and let them know that they have been elected or not. But if you would give us a little bit of time, and we'll call you if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Okay, council, any discussion on any of the candidates, anything that you want to bring up about what you saw, strengths, weaknesses, anything at all? I'll leave it up to you.
Just want to make a general comment for everyone in attendance, if they weren't all tracking. This is the first time we're doing this, right, as an appointment versus a special election, so this is kind of new to us as well. And thank you for leading us through the process. The fact that at one point we had 11, I believe, interested candidates for that one vacant seat says a lot about our city. It says a lot about what we're doing, because there's been many times that we've almost had to beg people to run for office. I know I've run unopposed 4 times now. So it's great to see people wanting to sit up here and take this seat. So regardless of what happens with the other 2, I do hope they take your guidance of recognizing there'll be opportunities to run for the vacant seats when that time comes.
And sir, just to clarify, Niceville is so amazing. We had 3 people that aren't even city residents apply for this job.
Well, actually, yes, willing to get their home, at least 1 or 2 willing to get zoned into the city, right?
And 3 more who had no chance of getting annexed into the city, and they still applied because this place is so fantastic.
Make sure you write that one down, put that on the paper.
Mr. Schatzley, do you have something you want to say?
Sure. All the applicants and the 3 finalists, and I say 3 because 1 withdrew last week, the 3 finalists have made our job tough to pick out who we feel would be best serving in the position. And it is going to be a tough job, but unfortunately, we only have 1 position.
Anybody else have anything? Miss Alley, I'm not going to let you do that. Right now, I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead.
My question was that since this is an open forum, should the candidates not come back in when we do the vote?
No, we can bring them in afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you want us to proceed?
Well, if you don't have anything else to say, I'm going to ask the question. Council, are you prepared to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 3 candidates, and once again, let me remind you who those candidates were. Mr. Doug Tolbert, he was our first interviewee. Mr. Suraj Patel, our second, and then Mr. Doug Stauffer. Those are our three candidates, and for the folks in the audience, yes, there was a down select of 4 candidates. One candidate withdrew, and all 4 that well, I should say all of them that submitted resumes that were qualified were all great candidates, and any one of them will do a great job. But we're down to 3, and so with that said, I'm going to ask the council to vote. And so with that, I'm going to do it by calling their name and asking them to state the individual they are supporting. With that said, I will begin with Mr. Najumian.
I think we'll probably all say this. I will happily serve with any of the 3 that are selected. I think they're all going to be fantastic. But with only 1 vote to cast, I cast my vote for Doug Stauffer.
Mr. Schatzel.
I cast my vote for Doug Tolbert.
Ms. Alley.
I cast my vote for Doug Tolbert.
And Mr. Donahue.
I cast my vote for Doug Stauffer.
Okay, we have a 2-2 tie. So with that, I am going to ask the council to take a few moments and discuss their strengths and weaknesses to see if we have a change. And if we don't have a change in the vote, we will do a coin flip, and we will ask those 2 individuals to come in, and we will do it in their presence. So with that, do you want a few minutes to take a break, or do you want to just go right into the discussions? All right, Mr. Najumian, you want to state your reasons, strengths, weaknesses, whatever?
Sure. So I'll talk about Doug Stauffer. And by the way, as I said earlier, I could support Doug Tolbert, but I'm not prepared to change my vote at this point. I think Doug did a fantastic job on the opening question of biggest concerns. He's the only one who talked about affordable housing, workforce housing. No one else brought that concept up. He talked about the daycare issue, which is one of the largest issues. Both of these issues are the #1 issues for Eglin Air Force Base, which is the single largest influencer of our community. So he was completely linked in with that. He talked about, others were very generic in how they answered the other questions of balancing time. They simply said they would. They're good at it. He talked about resigning an existing position, quantifying how many hours he was going to free up in doing so, and gave us strong examples of that. When it came to when he talked about our accomplishments, he knows what we do. He talked about our Youth Advisory Council that we take great pride in. He talked about all the growth in buildings that we've done. And then, of course, he mentioned the hiring of our new city manager and the impacts that has had on the trickle down through our staff. So again, very well informed. You want to go through all 8 of mine? Because I go through all of them.
Yes, I would prefer you state everything again, because again, we're in a 2-2 tie.
Yep.
So if there's something there that's going to sway a vote, I would like to hear it.
Okay. In terms of engagement and hearing voices, again, he was very definitive, talking about methods and means, talking about emails, answering emails, the personal comms and communications that he would have. Went on to talk about how he's engaged in the chamber and other events around the community, which would lead to dialogue. Let's see, the question of why are you the best? He started with a comment that all are worthy. However, he enumerated the fact that he's read the charter, he's read the comp plan, he's read all of our ordinances, he's been extraordinarily active in attending all of our meetings, so he listed a number of reasons for that. When it came to youth groups, I don't think anyone can touch him. When he's been involved in mentoring and teaching 120 students, whether it's been in computer, accounting, or Bible studies, all the youth group engagement, and all those other things that he stipulated. Let's see, question number 7. My question of what do you hope to accomplish 3 years from now? He was a little bit generic on that. He said making the city better. He hopes to learn in the position. And then he went back to talking about the CRA and the ability to bring forward things through that CRA redevelopment process. And then finally, on the inclusivity question that I believe Carl asked, just talked about equity and his service to all people, wrapping that into his closing comments about his servant leadership. And we know about his servant leadership given his roles in the community for the last 35 years.
Anything else?
I would have Carl add anything to that one.
No, I'm good. You covered it all.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Schatzel?
Well, I agree with what my fellow councilman has just summarized. Unfortunately, Doug Tolbert was the first one instead of the last one, and the last one sometimes sticks the foremost in your mind. I'm not going to go through everything that Doug Tolbert went through like you have gone through, but I really thought it was to Doug Tolbert's credit that he stood up there, he thought before he answered. He had very good, concise answers. He is involved with things within the city. He's been involved with the CAC, Citizens Advisory Committee. He's been involved with the Niceville City Planning Commission, and he understands the CRA, the Senior Center, and I don't think he's going to be one that will ignore the needs and wants and the concerns of the city.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
So, I'm not gonna change my vote either because, Doug by far has the most experience being on the Niceville Planning Commission and understanding all that process. And working with the, Okaloosa Walton Transportation Planning. I liked his 3 pillars. I liked the integrity, humble attitude, resilience, and he also worked with a lot of children, so I don't have any concerns with that. And he also was on the latest City Charter Review Committee. He chaired that. So, I think that he would do a great job. He's very passionate about what he does. He's very engaged. He does the research. He wants to know what's going on, and he does all of that before coming to a meeting. So, I am not going to change my vote either.
Mr. Donahue?
Ditto to what everybody up here said, but I really liked his answers, especially how he addressed inclusiveness.
Who are we talking about? Which one are you talking about?
Stauffer.
Stop, okay.
And I'm not changing my vote either, so.
All right, well, for the record, I'm going to ask each council member once again to cast a vote. And should it end in a tie, this is what we will do. We will bring in those 2 individuals. I will write down a number between 1 and 10. I will ask them each to give me a number. The closest to it will be the one that will call the coin flip. Any questions? All right. So, Mr. Najumian, how do you vote?
Stauffer.
Mr. Schatzel?
Tolbert.
Miss Alley?
Tolbert.
And Mr. Donahue?
Stauffer.
All right. Let's, first of all, make sure, do we have a coin?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I know you got a pocket full of
Oh, of course you have a,
Bring the coin up here.
is it a legal U.S. tender?
So,
Yeah, it's not a golf.
I'm going to ask the city attorney to verify that there is a heads and a tails, and he will explain what's heads, and he will explain what is tails. So, Mr. City Attorney, yes, you will. Get in that mic.
All righty, we have a quarter. It's not the Super Bowl coin, but it is a quarter, and the tails.
Explain the head. You didn't tell me what the head was.
The head, okay, I'm sorry. The head is George Washington. Thank you, George Washington.
It's one of those.
The dead president.
And the
Oh, boy.
tails is the Statue of Liberty.
Okay. All right. Stephen, let's see if we can get those folks in here.
Yes, sir.
Put that in the picture.
I can see the headline, right? City council decides on a coin flip.
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't
Say-
flip a quarter between David and I, that's all I'm gonna say.
Well,
glad
at
you
least
went
we
fair
did
and
it
square.
under the sunshine law.
And that complies with our charter, because it talks about flip a coin or draw a straw, and it's called lot, L-O-T.
Yeah. So once again, for everybody out there, we are not doing something that's not in accordance with our city charter. So again, going to the lot, or in this case, flipping a coin to make that decision is part of our charter.
Yep.
And since I am the individual that doesn't vote, and I'm kind of the neutral party, I will do the coin toss. We will let it hit the ground, and hopefully it doesn't roll someplace that we can't find it. I am. Mr. Tolbert,
Yes.
congratulations, you have made it to a coin toss.
Excellent.
Your fate is gonna be determined by a quarter. How's that make you feel?
Worth about the same.
We lose? Oh, okay. You know, when you read that, when we first got started, I'm like, yeah, like, that's gonna happen.
Think about that.
Yeah,
And here we are.
here we are.
Now we're going, who's head, who's head?
We're gonna-
Well, you see, I'm gonna write down a number. You're gonna verify that number.
You're welcome to attend, but,
Well, that's the,
See who gets to call it.
they call it, but we'll just assign one of them's heads and one of them's tails.
Okay,
Good job being excited
So-
about gambling, you know that.
is that right?
Legalized.
This opens the door
Mr.
for Kansas
Stoffer,
City.
congratulations.
Right?
You are one of the
This
two
opens the door
individuals
for
that
gambling.
the decision will be made in a coin toss. Please come forward, both of you. So here's what we're gonna do. One of you is gonna make the call, but in order to do that, we have, I've written down a number between 1 and 10, and whoever is closest to that number will be the one that makes the call. So, Mr. Tolbert,
2 games a chance, right.
in our charter, the coin toss is legal.
This is a 2 games a chance. 2 games a chance. I pick a number?
Yes.
5.
6. What's the number, council?
Can't read your writing.
9 was the number. You get to call the coin toss. And just so you guys know, that is heads, and that is tails.
Wow. Okay, call it before it hits the ground.
So
Call it
you,
before it hits the ground.
you get to call it now before I flip it.
Tails.
He's called tails. Everybody ready? It is tails.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It's in the charter, folks. It's unbelievable.
I read the charter, it's in there.
So-
In fact, I got it right here.
The decision has been made on the coin toss, and our local media got a close-up of it.
That was a perfect shot, sir, thank you.
And, you know, I just gotta say that all 3 candidates, matter of fact, all the candidates applied, but all 3 candidates were outstanding. I hate that it has to come down to that we gotta make a selection, and I certainly hate that it came down to we had to make the selection by a coin toss. But Doug, you're involved in the community. Doug, you're involved in the community. I've asked that you both stay involved in your full capacities. And just remember what was stated early on before you conducted the interview, and that is, we know there's going to be 2 seats that open up next year, and I would strongly encourage anybody to run for those seats. Doug, thank you.
I know you're.
Congratulations, Doug Stoffer. And we are going to do a swearing-in ceremony here shortly to bring you on board. Wendy, do we have that document somewhat close to being prepared?
Yes, so can you come fill this in and then I'll go and.
Who had the quarter? Give it to Mr. Stoffer, he's sitting there. All right.
I'll take it, I'll take it.
Before we break, I want to say this. I want to thank each and every person that's come out here tonight to be a part of this effort.
Gambling is.
And I will ask, does anybody have any questions they want to ask of the council? Thank you again for being a part of this tonight, and wow, what can I say? Thank you.
We're gonna do his installment.
We're going to do his installment right
I'm
here.
sure they understand.
Yeah, anybody wants to stay to watch us swear in the new councilman, please do so. We are going to swear him in just a moment. Get that flag down.
We have the oath.
She is getting.
Okay.
Let's do it. We got this.
You won't see me in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That is new.
I've never seen it. I've been here.
You gonna pull that picture on? Yeah.
He flipped it right next to my left shoe, I just panned down.
42 years.
Every once in a while.
There you go. Yeah, see y'all. Hey, hey, you did good.
Thank you.
You almost did it.
I know. Call like
I'll forget my kids' names. I wanted to do something. Then it said, choose a number.
So you're kind of weird
On one side. Yeah, I read the credentials there. Are you still going to?
I got a chalkboard.
So you're.
I guess not a chalkboard anymore. And that's going to. Yeah, I was just thinking, is that fun?
Well, I'm glad you dropped out. We've done this.
That weird little skinny ones.
Well, I read up on you.
I mean, you had that, I mean, oil before.
You know, I thought about it, I go. I was like, that's the greatest gift of all time. I was about to say, like, hey, flip it, I came down here and like, just there. And I was like, nah, he's got it. And then 2 seconds later,
Didn't hit your
thank you
foot.
so much.
Or we'd have to,
Yeah.
yeah, we'd had to call interference on that.
Yeah, of course, it's the mediator. That's what I need. That's just what I need. Yeah. Now, we're talking hands and short. At least short.
Coin toss. Come on. Okay, come on.
Hey, more than that. Hey, right. Listen, they draw lots of words.
My kingdom for a quarter. My kingdom for a quarter. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was that's how I heard the answers, but not enough to sway the other two who seem to be set on their call. I've got 9 pages of notes. I wrote down every single 6 in case it came back. One thing I can't stand is, you know this as a public official who does RFP reviews, I can't, or proposal reviews, I can't stand if we don't win something. I ask for a debrief, and all I get is some scores. So I'm like, well, what was the basis for the score? Right, why did you, right? So always write that stuff down.
Yeah,
So I can defend
because
myself.
national insurance.
Yes, but not a just try to.
Yes, no, it just.
What's going on? Who are you? Who are you? I don't know. Tell me. Yeah, who did show up today? Right. Oh, that's good. Yeah. One thing I've learned on Teams is Teams allows you to do transcript. Yeah, so then you can take transcript and dump it into ChatGPT. They have it cleaned up and say, summarize this in 5 minutes. And it can go through and summarize it. Yeah, so that way you're not, because if you transcript, it's everything. It's like, you know, it picks up everything that's being said. So then you can push it to another AI and do a lot cleaner than it was. All over.
I know. Show them.
Oh,
There should
really?
be some sort of hazard that like, you know, they can just mark on their
Yeah,
time sheet.
and then probably not, that's what you're, it's probably close to reality.
Yes, it is. Some of these at the very beginning. Talk to it.
Everybody's attention, please. We are going to do the swearing in ceremony. You might want to come over here on this side of the flag. And are you going to swear or are you going to affirm?
Swear.
Okay, I will read it that way. So we're going to do the swearing in, and if anybody else wants to take photos, do you have anybody that you want to have them take photos so you'll have them? Do you have your?
Where's Ann? Ann's still here?
I don't know.
Ann, can you take photos?
Of course I can.
She's got a video of the whole
All right,
thing.
step forward just a little bit, this way. A little bit back. There you go.
Hold
Good.
up.
All right. So I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution
that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution
and the government of the United States
and the government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
of City Council Group 3
of City Council Group 3
on which I'm about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So we're going to sign these documents now, and we will move forward. You have a really good
Everyone
pen,
needs to
don't you?
forget that it was a coin toss, okay? I know.
There's nothing that can be done about it.